Auto teams are back on the menu. This team is pretty easy to set up. This clears Dagger Sicar without any issue. And since I'm ranked 20 right now somehow, this is also definitely safe for top 5%. We need a Thief hero in the back slot, as well as 2 Earth heroes to meet the team bonus. This fight was designed for Blooming Litica, but as usual, we don't actually need the hero that the fight was designed for to do anything. Oh, and I forgot to mention, for anybody who missed it, we do have a second Unequip event coming up. It was announced in the Merowin mail. It's from 1/28 all the way to 2/3, so it'll be active for pretty much the entire end of this rotation. So don't feel rushed to do this now. You have like 5 days of Unequip to do it still. This is the team that I'm using. I don't have Blooming Litica built. Don't plan on building her. Also, my Grace of Growth isn't available, so I'm using Kayron. He's actually the best for the manual teams, but he also works super well in auto, in my opinion. I'll talk about the roles for each slot, any alternative units, and then, of course, their stats. Starting off with Wukong, he's got his full AoE S1, so we need this for 2 reasons. One is Elena summons 2 ads that have 6 skill nullifiers, and we have to kill them before the break phase starts, so that's 7 hits to kill them. Since we can't target them on auto, AoEs are definitely even more important here than they are in the manual version. But also, just in the break phase, when somebody besides the Thief uses an AoE, it'll push everybody back, so that the only people that take turns should be the AoE and the Thief. Achates likes to grief a little bit, so we're going to lose some turns to her, but it's fine. Alternative units, Yuna, Dizzy, anybody with the full AoE S1 works fine. Ideally with a pretty high base speed though, because you do want them pretty fast. I think 265 speed is good. It's just so that you take enough AoEs and get rid of enough skill nullifiers, especially in the second phase and third phase, where if you're using Senya, her cooldown is pretty long on her S3, so she might not be able to contribute 2 AoEs instead of 1. Aside from that, the stats don't really matter. For the artifact, I was using Music Box in my run, but now that I think about it, this is not that good, because the immunity buff can actually block the pushback in the break phase. So this is not fantastic. Maybe don't use this. Use like Super Duper Water Shooter or something for some extra attack. Now let's take a look at the Thief slot. For the Thief slot, I'm using Kayron, of course, and Blooming Litica, who the fight was made for, would definitely work well. Any Thief with a AoE on a pretty low cooldown works fine. AoE is not just to help with the skill null, but also it'll increase the damage deal to Elena because she takes even more damage from AoEs. Definitely don't use Rando because Ran his S2 gives everybody immunity, and that's going to mess you up a little bit. So let's take a look at his stats. The scaling is weird. It's HP scaling, so you just want to max out your HP, and then around like 190 speed I think is nice to have. S1 damage increase EE, and Alex's Basket is mandatory. It just gives him a chance for a buff at the start of his turn, so he gets more AoEs in. Next is this unit. It's a unit that has to have counter attack buff. It can't just be counter set. What happens is after Elena uses her S2, she'll push the unit into front all the way up and reduce their cooldowns by 2 turns. So that's when you would either have your counter attack buff up already or put it up on that turn. After you use a skill, all of the enemies get pushed up. If you haven't killed the ads yet, you die. Otherwise, Elena just hits you and you enter the break phase. So the alternatives would be Kikarat, ML Kayron, who I think are actually both better than Senya. And then there's also, I guess there's like Helen, but a lot of unit choices for here. Any unit that can reliably get the counter attack buff. Senya, her main issue is that her S3 is on a 4-turn cooldown. This just means that you have to make her a little bit faster so that in the first phase, she'll open with S3. You have to take a second turn before Elena uses her S2. Aside from that, I don't think her stats really matter. I just kind of gave her a bunch of bulk so she wouldn't die. For her artifact, just give her any stat boosting artifact and it's going to work fine. Lastly is the healer slot. Besides Achates, a lot of people are using Ray just because Ray is Earth, and that would help you meet your 2 Earth requirement. I think any healer with a cleanse that's consistent would work fine here, honestly. I have Achates just on her normal gear. I didn't bother re-gearing her. I think there's an argument for autoing to make her slower, if you can still survive, just so that she doesn't spam S1 during the break phase, but I didn't bother min-maxing it at all or anything. I'm using Touch Echoes for extra sustain as well. So before we go into the fight, just make sure you have 2 Earth units, and then your S1 AoE unit has their skills off, and if you're using Kayron, he should have his skills off as well.
원수의 심장을 뚫을 때까지 나의 창은 무너지지 않습니다.
오합 기절이고 헛되고 얘는 배로 주입해야지. 너의 고통 나를 비추.
믿음을 가지세요. 지금 들립니다. 복수를 원하는 내 목소리가.
얘는 배로 주입해야지. 순멸하라. 오합 기절이고 너의 고통 나를 비추. 헛되고 나자라.
어리석은 불신자들에게 지금 별의 힘을.
얘는 배로 주입해야지. 너의 고통 나를 비추. 오합 기절이고
저를 기다렸나요?
순멸하라. 얘는 배로 주입해야지. 너의 고통 나를 비추.
다시 싸우세요. 원수의 심장을 뚫을 때까지 나의 창은 결코 무너지지 않습니다. 나버릴 거예요.
오합 기절이고 헛되고 나자라. 얘는 배로 주입해야지. 너의 고통 나를 비추. 순멸하라. 오합 기절이고
그대에게 내릴 거룩한 시련 감내하고 만끽하세요.
너의 고통 나를 비추. 얘는 배로 주입해야지. 오합 기절이고 헛되고 나자라.
저를 기다렸나요?
오합 기절이고
믿음을 가지세요. 제가 살아남은 것은 이 순간을 위해서였군요.
우리는 배로 주입해야지. 소멸하라. 오합 기절이고. 너의 고통 나를 비추.
당신이 지은 수많은 죄 회개할 시간이
That's it for the auto team. It's nice having them be back. The last one was pretty much impossible to auto for any sort of respectable score. This one's easy to set up, scores really high, clears your Dagger Sicar, and hopefully you guys are able to get this working, and I'll see you guys for the next rotation.